Do any of you want to take it?
I I could start. I was at our one of the government centers we operated in Henrico to provide early voting. And just a quick note on early voting. This is absolutely meeting the voters where they are and providing that 45-day early voting along with no excuse absentee. And we had a steady stream of voters there on that first day. I think they're just by my anecdotal evidence, I would say they're Republicans and Democrats rolling in that morning. But I think that this demonstrates that folks want to take advantage of these options. Not everybody likes to vote early. That's fine. We still have election day voting, but people are busy. And I think they really like the idea of having that convenience. Why in the world we'll contemplate rolling those that convenience back? But that's on the agenda with Republicans getting rid of the early voting, or at least drastically reducing it. Rolling back the early the no excuse absentee. I mean, Virginia at one point ranked 49th in the country for ease of voting. We're now in the top 10 for ease of voting. We totally turned that around with the laws we passed in 20 and 21. So why would we stop that?
Great. Do either of the other candidates want to answer that too?
I would just echo the sentiments of my colleague, because early voting is strong in the district, and it's because people understand the importance of this election. You know, people say things like off year, but there is no off year. In Virginia, there is something on the ballot every year. And I think the voters are excited to make their voice heard and make sure that their interests are what's represented.
Yeah, I would just say down here in Hampton Roads, it's ramping up because the day of the early voting started here in Hampton Roads, we were affected by the tropical storm, so that really cut down over the next couple of days afterwards in terms of the normal turnout. So over the past 3 days, we've seen a steady increase here, especially here in Virginia Beach, with voters getting out and exercising their right to utilize early voting, which is incredible. And we're going to continue to encourage voters to get out there to vote early or to vote by mail, and of course vote on election day if they haven't done so by then.
Perfect. The next question is also for the candidates. It is: the Republican candidates are rallying around a promise of passing a 15-week abortion ban with exceptions. What's your response to moderate voters who are reassured by that and think it's a reasonable measure?
So I'll go ahead and start off with this, and for myself, and when I'm talking with voters as I've been out there, I like to point out directly down to not too far from where we're at right now. So I'm in Virginia Beach. The state line to North Carolina is not that far, and you can look at North Carolina, and you can look at South Carolina, and you keep going all the way down to Florida and across the rest of the South. And what was initially started off for many of those individuals that, of course, that didn't have trigger laws for when Roe v. Wade was taken back during the Dobbs decision, was they've taken away from those rights. It's not 15 weeks in many of those states. Maybe it was advertised for a lot of the voters, and so when we're talking with voters, we're letting them know that we're trying to keep the rights here in Virginia. That's what Democrats are trying to do. We're not trying to roll back reproductive freedom. And I used the term reproductive freedom because it's not just about abortion. It's about contraceptives. It's about in vitro fertilization, and it's going to expand up past that. So they think they found a way with trying to say 15-week ban, but I make sure to say that taking away weeks of health care is a ban. And a ban is a ban, and that's what I'm making sure to convey to our voters. They're getting confused by the message that the Republicans are now trying to, as they say, moderate. But it's simply a ban.
Perfect. Kim, do you want to answer next? Thank you.
Yeah, if I may. I think what has been so frustrating for me is that when I hear people talk about the 15-week ban, they say things like compromise. But let me be clear, there is no compromise when it comes to a woman's right to make her own healthcare decision. And the fact that we are even splitting hairs over a number of weeks is the very reason why politicians don't need to be a part of this decision. This decision needs to remain between a woman and her doctor. point blank. A ban is a ban is a ban. And I talk with voters about it, and they feel the same way. If we allow this freedom to be taken away, it's a slippery slope, and the Republicans won't stop until they've stripped away all of our freedoms.
Great. Next question is for all three of the candidates from Trip Gabriel of the New York Times. Are the troubles confronting Susanna Gibson going to affect any of these races at all?
I could speak to that because the Susanna's district 57th is contiguous with my 58th that I'm running for in Western Henrico. You know, my sympathies go out to Susanna and her family. No one wants their private lives broadcast to the entire world on the internet, and it's really a tough situation for her. But I can speak for myself and others running here. We're heads down. Running the race we run, because as we've talked now through this whole conversation, the stakes couldn't be higher. And I think voters understand that what's at stake here. And the stakes couldn't be higher, whether we're talking about abortion rights, gun safety, taking care of our schools, environmental protections. We made amazing progress in Virginia in 20 and 21, really just passing an unprecedented number of laws in all those areas and making those budget priorities. And every single one of those things is under attack. It's just incredible. I'd rather be focusing on the new things, but we've had to play defense for the last 2 years with the Republican majority in the House. And so, yeah, we've got to focus on that. And I think the voters understand, end of the day, this is the most consequential election we've ever had in Virginia.
Great. Next question is from Ethan Cohen of CNN. He says, for the DLCC folks, so for Heather, now that early voting has started, are we seeing an impact of the GOP's increased effort to encourage their people to vote early?
So I'll start off with that. It's extremely difficult for the Republicans to try to turn on a dime, something that they've been trying to downplay for years. For the vast majority of the Republican base, for those that maybe are believing some of the conspiracy theories and things like that, when I've been on the doors my district is a purple district, so I have to talk with independents, Democrats, and Republicans. And Republicans have stated is that many of them do not believe in early voting. They don't believe in mail-in and turning your vote by mail. They allow them to believe in election day. So I don't know if all of a sudden after years of trying to be against the early voting, trying to roll it back, that they can all of a sudden change the mind frames of many of their voters who really believe on only voting on election day.
Just add to that. Hey, I want everybody to be able to vote, and if the governor and others want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars encouraging people to vote, I'm all in for that. But we're also not ignorant here. You don't have to look any farther than North Carolina to our south to see what happens when a overwhelming Republican majority takes control. They are absolutely rolling back early voting protections, early voting access in that state. The exact same thing's going to happen here. No one should be fooled. And they have to leverage the early voting we passed as Democrats to be able to undo what we did. And that's exactly the strategy here.
Great. Thank you. So I know we're getting a lot of questions. We only have time, though, for a couple more. Next one is from Bridget Bowman of NBC News. She asks, first for the candidates, it seems like Democratic candidates in Virginia are talking much more about gun violence than federal candidates do in the midterms. Why do you believe this is a winning issue in Virginia?
Actually, I'll start first. It's not so much that it's a winning issue so much as it is a necessary issue. The conversation has to happen. Gun violence affects every locality in my district, particularly the city of Petersburg. So the issues for me are driven by what I'm being told on doors. When I'm knocking doors and I'm speaking with the voter, it's not about what my priorities are. It is about what the district needs. And the district has told me that they need common sense gun legislation in order to feel safe in their communities and their homes, in their places of work, places of worship, where their children go to school. So it's not that I decided to run on this issue, but it is the issue that is most important, and the voters are telling me that.
I'll put a finer point on with a story, some of the remarks I made earlier. I am sitting a mile and a half from a door I knocked several months ago. Door I knocked of a parent who lost a child to gun violence from another teenager who should not have had that weapon. That shooting happened about 100 yards from where I was having that conversation with her. You cannot look parents in the eye and tell them you're not going to take action on gun violence when these things are happening in Western Henrico, literally in your backyard. And I think any politician, any person with common sense who's out there in the world knows this is what's happening. You talk to the voters, this is absolutely front and center to them.
Yeah, and I'm glad that Delegate Willick brought up the fact that all of us, all the candidates on this call, or the electeds on this call, are responsible gun owners, because it's an important thing to make. As a Democrat, as someone who served our country, I let voters know that I'm a responsible gun owner. But I'm also living in the same area in Hampton Roads where a child shot a teacher recently, and as Delegate Willick said, parents are coming to us saying that they are scared. They are scared for their children to be in public in schools, and it is not an issue to where we can just say we have more important issues to take care of. If a voter is telling us that we have to take care of this and deal with the issues at hand, we just had just a few moments ago a great canvas kickoff with former Congresswoman Giffords, talking about the importance of dealing with the issue head on of gun violence in our communities. And so it's absolutely something we must tackle here with common sense legislation. And it's important for responsible gun owners like ourselves to speak truth to that we're going to do the best we can to take care of our communities.
Great. And then the next question is also for all of the candidates. What are you hearing from young voters, and what are you doing to get the youth vote out?
I'll start on that one, because I actually got the question in an interview just the other day in talking to young voters. And here's the question. The young voters are saying, basically ask the question, why vote? Why vote when they see so much inaction in government, including here in Virginia, where we've spent 6 months trying to get budget amendments passed because Republicans were set on giving tax cuts to the wealthiest taxpayers, when meanwhile we haven't adequately funded our teachers, our schools, healthcare system, or roads. But what I told those young voters, I said, you don't have to look back very far, just a couple of years, when we passed an unprecedented number of bills helping all Virginians, whether it's protecting LGBTQ rights, the environment, the gun safety measures I talked about already, actually removing really onerous abortion restrictions. We did have those in Virginia, and we got rid of them just over 2 years ago. All of those things we did. So yes, we can get things done with the right leadership. That's why you got to vote. If you vote, we can get the right leadership and actually make these good things happen again.
Great. I know we have a lot of questions. We only have time, though, for one more. Last question here is for Heather of the DLCC. What exactly are you seeing in the early voting numbers that make you cautiously optimistic?
Sure. I think the data is just starting to come in, right? We're really early in the early vote period. It just started last Friday. But I think that we have, right, a real level of optimism because we've got really, really great candidates, and we've been making investments all year, right? We've got these great candidates who are in these communities. All of the folks here have already represented, right, the stories that they can tell and the real conversations that they're having with voters. That is really impactful. Democrats believe in access to voting. They've been voting for a long time. Using the time that is given to them, and that is always a positive. It is hard to change a voter's behavior, and when you have mixed messages about early vote, it creates a little bit of chaos in a voter's mind. For Democrats, we really believe in access to voting, and we really believe that you should take advantage of those opportunities. And so we've got voters out there voting. We've got excellent candidates in these communities. And, we at the DLCC have been in Virginia for a really long time. And this year alone, we've been there all year. And, I think we feel, as I said, cautiously optimistic about where we are. And we're ready to tackle the next few weeks as we head right into November.
Perfect. I know we have other questions here. We still want to connect you with the candidates. So to ask those questions, just shoot me an email at Ramon at